Elia's ward had seen war unlike any human had ever imagined. Entire planets torn apart by conflicts between species, fleets burning in orbit, and the screams of civilians echoing across empty cities. Humanity had survived where others had fallen because humans were stubborn. They fought not only with skill but with heart, and that heart, irrational, unpredictable, and unyielding, was something no alien species could understand. On the scorched planet of Varaxis, Elias led the last evacuation team. The mission was simple: rescue as many civilians and allied soldiers as possible and leave before the enemy arrived. But the simple missions rarely stayed simple. As he sprinted across a debris-strewn street, his eyes caught a flicker of movement. A figure crouched in the ruins of a collapsed building. It was alive. He lowered his weapon carefully and ran toward it. It was an alien female, her skin shimmering faintly in the dim light. Her eyes were sharp, intelligent, yet filled with fear. Elias didn't know her species, but he knew one thing: she was dying. Smoke curled around her and her breathing was shallow. Her body had been mangled by falling rubble, but she was alive, just barely. Elias hesitated for a moment, listening for any sound of the enemy. There was none. The street was silent except for the distant crackle of explosions. With careful hands, he lifted the alien onto his shoulders. "You'll be okay," he said. His voice was calm, even though adrenaline surged through him. He didn't know if she could understand him, but the words mattered. Humans always tried to speak hope into despair, and sometimes it worked. The alien's eyes opened weakly. She stared at him, her gaze intense but unreadable. Then, in a voice that was strange yet soft, she whispered, "Do it again, human." Elias froze. He didn't understand the words, but the tone carried a strange urgency, almost pleading. He adjusted his hold and ran toward the extraction point, ignoring the burning wrecks around him. Hours later, aboard the human ship, she was stable but unconscious. The medical team worked quickly, unfamiliar with alien biology, but Elias refused to leave her side. Her name was Celira, he learned later, though no one knew how to pronounce it correctly. She was of a species that rarely interacted with humans. In fact, many believed her kind considered humans a threat because of our unpredictable nature. Elias didn't care. He had saved lives before, humans and others alike. This alien was no different. And when she woke, her eyes met his with that same intensity, and she spoke again. "Do it again, human. Love me again." Elias didn't know how to respond. The words made no sense, yet something in her tone was familiar. It was the kind of plea humans used when trust had been broken, when survival depended on connection. He realized slowly that she was trying to reach him, not with weapons, not with threats, but with something else. Something humans understood better than anyone: a bond. Over the next days, Elias stayed by her side. Celira struggled to communicate at first. Her species had a complex language, full of tones humans couldn't replicate. But through gestures, expressions, and a few shared words, she began to understand him. And he began to understand her. He noticed things about her that surprised him. Her skin changed color slightly when she was happy or frightened. She could detect emotional states in others almost instantly. And most surprisingly, she seemed fascinated by human behavior, our empathy, our willingness to sacrifice, and the strange joy we found in small things. Elias explained the basics of human life: family, trust, courage, and love. Celira listened intently, her head tilted slightly, absorbing every detail. There was something remarkable happening, something neither of them could fully understand yet. A bond was forming, but the galaxy was not kind to such connections. Celira's people discovered she had been rescued by a human. A diplomatic envoy arrived, demanding her return immediately. The aliens were cold, rigid, and unyielding. To them, humans were dangerous, and emotional bonds were weaknesses. Celira resisted. She had never felt this way before, and she could not bear to be taken away. She turned to Elias, her voice trembling but firm. "Do it again, human. Stay with me." Elias looked into her eyes and saw fear, defiance, and something deeper, a spark that could change everything. Humans had survived because we cared for each other, because we loved, and perhaps, just perhaps, that love could reach beyond species. The envoy was insistent. "You cannot remain together," one alien said. "This bond is unnatural, it must be severed." Elias stood firm. "I saved her life," he said. "I will not abandon her, and if you want her, you will have to take her from me." The aliens hesitated, surprised by his defiance. They had never encountered humans like this, creatures willing to risk everything for connection rather than power. Celira's hand touched his, a tiny gesture that spoke volumes. She trusted him. She chose him. The standoff ended inconclusively. The aliens left for now, warning that they would return. Celira turned to Elias and whispered again, "Do it again, human, don't leave me." Elias nodded. "I won't, not ever." As the ship jumped into hyperspace, Elias realized something. The galaxy had never seen a bond like this before. Human determination and love, irrational, unpredictable, and indestructible, could defy not just odds but entire civilizations. For Celira, everything she knew about strength, survival, and duty had been challenged. Humans had a kind of power her species had never understood, the power to endure through connection, to survive because of love, not in spite of it. And for Elias, the war had taken many things from him. But in rescuing Celira, he had gained something that no one could take away, the possibility of changing the galaxy not with weapons but with heart. The stars stretched ahead of them, endless and full of unknown dangers. But Elias was ready. He would protect Celira. He would fight for her. And most importantly, he would prove that humans, strange, stubborn, emotional humans, could defy the impossible. As Celira drifted into a restless sleep, she murmured one last thing before her eyes closed. "Love me again, human, always." Elias watched her, a quiet determination settling in his chest. This was only the beginning. The galaxy would never be the same again. The stars stretched endlessly outside the ship's viewport, a cold and beautiful reminder that the galaxy held both wonder and danger. Elias sat in the command chair, eyes fixed on the distant constellations, but his thoughts were with Celira. She had changed everything he thought he knew about alien species. She was not a threat, not a weapon, not a puzzle to solve. She was intelligent, alive, and capable of emotions so strong that even a hardened human soldier like him felt unsettled by them. Celira, however, was restless. Her species had strict rules about emotional control, and yet she had allowed herself to form a bond with a human. Every moment of interaction with Elias was a risk, but she could not stop herself. She had never experienced this connection before, this feeling of trust, safety, and even admiration. On the human ship, with its hum of engines and warm lights, she felt something new: freedom. The alien envoy that had come for her before had left a warning. Their words had been clear. If she did not return willingly, her people would take action. They did not understand human loyalty, the way humans could endure hardship and protect those they cared for without hesitation. Elias, however, understood exactly what it meant to be caught between duty and emotion. He had seen it in his own soldiers countless times during the war. Training simulations filled his mind, strategies for survival, and ways to protect Celira if her people returned. But even as he prepared tactically, he realized that what she needed was not just defense, it was understanding. She needed someone who would see her as more than a political pawn or a threat. That someone was him. Celira watched him from her recovery bed, the alien glow in her skin dimming as she studied his every move. She had never trusted anyone in this way before, not even her closest kin. Her people taught caution, suspicion, and the suppression of emotional bonds. Yet here, on a human vessel with this human who risked everything to protect her, she felt something impossible: hope. The next day, Elias called a small meeting with the ship's senior officers. "We need to plan for the possibility that her people will come back," he said. His voice was calm but firm. "Celira's safety comes first. We cannot allow fear or misunderstanding to take her from us." One officer, Lieutenant Carver, frowned. "Commander, we don't know their technology. They could destroy us before we even see them." Elias shook his head. "We survive because humans adapt. Our weapons aren't just tools, they are extensions of our determination. And determination can't be measured with alien tech charts." Celira, listening quietly, felt something stir in her. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but that unpredictability was not weakness. It was strength. It was courage. And it was unlike anything she had ever seen among her own people who prized efficiency over connection. Days passed, and the tension on the ship grew. The crew prepared defenses, ran drills, and strengthened shields, but there was a subtle shift in morale. Seeing Elias protect Celira so completely inspired them. Humans fought not only for survival but for what they cared about. This was the essence of their power, and it radiated across the ship. Then, without warning, the sensors picked up an approaching vessel. It was sleek, silent, and unmistakably alien. Elias moved to the command deck. His mind raced with strategies, yet he felt no fear, not because the threat was small, but because he trusted his crew and Celira. The alien vessel transmitted a message. "Return the alien immediately. Resistance will be met with force." Elias stared at the message. He could feel Celira's gaze on him, steady and unwavering. She had chosen him and he had chosen her. Neither would back down. He sent a reply. "We do not abandon those under our protection. She is under our care and we will defend her." There was silence on the other end, followed by a pause. Then more words. "You do not understand the consequences of your actions." Elias' hand clenched on the console. "I understand more than you think. I understand loyalty, trust, and the power of connection. That is why we will not let you take her." The alien vessel hesitated. Its weapons were powerful, yes, but humans fought with more than weapons. They fought with resolve, with the strength of their hearts. The alien commanders had never faced this before. Celira stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "I choose to remain," she said in her language, which the ship's translator converted for everyone. "He saved me. I trust him. I will not return unless I wish to." The message from the alien ship flickered. "This bond is dangerous. It must be severed." Celira turned to Elias. "Do it again, human," she said softly. "Stay with me." Elias smiled. "I never left. I never will." The alien ship, uncertain and cautious, pulled back. They did not retreat forever, but they left for now, unwilling to engage directly with humans who fought with connection instead of fear. On the ship, the crew exhaled, tension releasing like a held breath. Celira looked at Elias, a glow of gratitude and something deeper shining in her eyes. "Your species, it is stronger than we believed," she said. Elias nodded. "Strength comes from protecting what we care about. That's something your people will never understand, yet." Over the next weeks, Elias and Celira continued to grow their bond. He taught her about human history, stories of survival, tales of individuals who had changed the galaxy simply because they cared. She shared stories of her people, of their achievements and their rigid codes. Both learned from the other, understanding that strength was not just in skill or technology, but in emotion, in connection, in the ability to inspire loyalty and trust. One night, the ship drifted near an uninhabited planet. The crew had gone to rest, leaving Elias and Celira alone on the observation deck. The stars reflected in her shimmering skin as she looked at him, a question in her eyes. "Do humans always fight like this?" she asked softly. "Not with hate, but with care." Elias leaned against the railing, looking at her. "We fight for each other. That's what makes us dangerous. That's what makes us survive." Celira considered this. "Then perhaps your species can teach mine something important. Perhaps survival is not just about dominance." Elias smiled. You've already learned that. You've chosen connection over fear. That is why you are still alive. For the first time, Salira felt something entirely new, hope not tied to strategy or survival instinct, but to a belief that humans could change the galaxy. And in that hope she found trust, and in trust she found courage. The quiet moment ended when the ship's sensors detected a signal, another human convoy. Relief spread through Elias. Humanity was not alone, and neither was he. Salira stood beside him, her presence a constant reminder that connection was a strength humans wielded like no other species could. As the stars passed by in streaks of light, Elias realized that this was only the beginning. The galaxy would test them again, but he was ready. Not because of weapons or training, but because of something far more powerful: loyalty, empathy, and the bond between two beings who refused to be separated. Salira turned to him once more. Do it again, human. Teach me again. Stay with me. Elias nodded firmly, a steady promise in his eyes. Always, always, Salira, we face it together. And so humanity's power, unpredictable, emotional, and unyielding, continued to grow. It was not conquest that made humans remarkable. It was their ability to care, to trust, and to endure because of those they loved. The stars stretched endlessly, full of danger and wonder, but Elias and Salira faced them side by side. And somewhere, far beyond the reaches of any galaxy, the aliens watched, realizing that the humans were unlike any species they had ever encountered, and perhaps far stronger than they had ever imagined. The galaxy had grown quiet for a few weeks after the confrontation with Salira's people. The tension had not completely vanished, but for the moment, the human ship moved freely through hyperspace. Elias Ward spent most of his time on the command deck, thinking about what came next. Humanity had survived countless wars, countless enemies, because they fought not just with weapons but with heart. And now, with Salira at his side, that heart had a new purpose: to prove that connection and empathy were as powerful as any fleet of warships. Salira had changed too. She was no longer the cautious, rigid alien who had feared emotions as weakness. She had learned from humans, and through Elias, she had learned what it meant to trust someone completely. Each day brought small victories: understanding human humor, practicing words in his language, and even showing faint glimpses of emotion in ways her species had long considered dangerous. One morning, the ship's sensors detected a strange signal, a distress beacon unlike anything Elias had encountered before. It came from the nearby star system of Veora. The readings indicated a massive attack fleet, armed with experimental weapons, headed towards several inhabited planets. It was clear. The galaxy had found a new threat, and it moved with speed and destruction in mind. Elias called an emergency meeting with his senior officers. We need to act immediately. This fleet isn't targeting us yet, but they will. We have to warn the colonies and, if necessary, confront them before they reach populated systems. Lieutenant Carver shook his head. We're outnumbered, sir. This could be suicide. Elias leaned forward. Carver, humans survive because we fight together, not because we're stronger alone, but because we refuse to give up. That is what makes us dangerous. That is why we will not fail. Salira listened from nearby, her glowing skin dim with focus. She had learned from Elias that humans thrived under pressure, that they could inspire loyalty even in impossible situations. And now, she realized, that human way of thinking could help her people as well. Perhaps the aliens who had once sought to reclaim her would finally understand the strength of connection. The fleet approached Veora, and the human ship moved ahead to intercept. From orbit, Elias could see the enemy vessels, vast and advanced. But he was not afraid. He had his crew, and he had Salira, an unexpected ally who had learned to trust in humanity's unique strengths. The battle began with a series of strikes. The alien fleet's weapons were powerful, capable of annihilating smaller ships instantly. But the humans fought with coordination, using strategy, prediction, and above all, cooperation. Each ship moved in concert, protecting the others, covering weak points, and using diversion tactics that confused the enemy. Elias commanded from the front, his calm determination inspiring every officer and crew member. Salira worked alongside him, using her knowledge of alien technology to anticipate enemy movements. Together, they formed a unique partnership, human intuition and alien intelligence, joined by trust and respect. Despite the danger, Elias felt a strange sense of hope. He realized that humans were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for connection. Every maneuver, every risk was a statement. Humans would endure because they valued each other. The battle escalated, and one of the enemy flagship vessels broke through the formation, heading straight for a populated planet. Elias ordered a daring maneuver. A small squadron would intercept it directly, while the main fleet protected the civilian worlds. It was dangerous, nearly suicidal, but the human pilots did not hesitate. They trusted each other, and they trusted Elias. Salira joined the squadron, her presence amplifying the humans' effectiveness. She could predict enemy movements in ways even advanced sensors could not. Together, they disabled the flagship's weapons, forcing it into retreat. The planet below was saved. As the remaining enemy ships withdrew, Elias and Salira returned to their ship, exhausted but triumphant. The human fleet had survived, and the colonies had been spared. More importantly, they had demonstrated a new truth to the galaxy. Connection and trust were as formidable as any weapon. In the aftermath, Salira spoke to Elias quietly. "Your people, they fight differently than mine. Not because they have more strength, but because they have more heart. That is why we must learn from you." Elias smiled. "Heart is stronger than any weapon, and humans survive because of it. You've seen it firsthand." News of the battle spread quickly, reaching Salira's people. They observed, reluctantly, that humans had faced superior technology and emerged victorious, not because they were stronger, but because they were united, capable of loyalty, and willing to protect those they cared about at any cost. Salira turned to her people and spoke boldly. "Humans are not weak. They are powerful in ways we cannot fully grasp. They survive because they fight together, because they trust, because they care. We must reconsider our ways." Her people listened, some reluctantly, some curiously. For the first time, the idea that emotional bonds could be a form of strength, not a weakness, began to take root. Elias watched this quietly, realizing that the galaxy was changing. Humanity's influence was subtle, yet profound. They had not conquered planets with fear or weapons. They had survived, thrived, and inspired by showing what loyalty and empathy could achieve. Later, Salira approached Elias again. "Do it again, human," she said softly. "Stay with me. Show me again why your species endures." Elias took her hand, a simple gesture filled with meaning. "Always. We face the galaxy together, Salira. Always." The stars outside the ship stretched endlessly, a canvas of danger and opportunity. But for the first time, Elias felt certain of something. Humanity's greatest power was not in fleets or firepower, but in their heart, their courage, and their unyielding refusal to abandon those they loved. Salira looked at him, a faint glow of understanding in her eyes. She had learned that true strength came from connection, from loyalty, and from trust. With humans, she had found a new way of surviving, a new way of living, and a bond that could withstand any challenge. The galaxy was vast, and threats would come again. But Elias and Salira together had proven that no force in the universe could overcome the human spirit when it fought for what it loved. And as they stood side by side, facing the stars, they knew that humanity's story was just beginning, and that connection, empathy, and courage would guide them through whatever came next. Elias turned to Salira one last time before the ship jumped into hyperspace. "This is only the beginning. The galaxy may test us, but we'll endure, together." Celira's eyes shone with quiet determination. Together, she repeated, a word that now carried the weight of two species, trust and hope. The human ship moved forward, carrying its crew, its ideals, and a bond that had changed the course of an alien civilization. For humans, survival had always been about more than power. It was about heart, loyalty, and the willingness to care. And now, the galaxy had witnessed it firsthand.